Hello again. It's Brandon and Carrie here, and we're doing this video a little bit later than we originally were planning to do it. However, I think it's significant that we are doing this today, and the reason is today is January 7th, 2020, and exactly 1 year ago, January 7th of 2019, is when this journey started for us. Uh, it was ironic last night. We were going back to uh, the place where everything began, and that was the Monday night activity that the kids have at the church. Um, that if you followed our story, we mentioned that's when I first started feeling the symptoms of the blurred vision. And I told Carrie, because Carrie actually drove there last night and I was the passenger, which we'll get to in a little bit. I'll tell you, uh, why that was. But anyway, as she was driving there, and my thoughts flashed back to last year. I was kind of hit with a wave of emotion and just thinking about everything that's happened since then. But so we'll get to all that again. But uh, we wanted to give everyone a video update, and there's some new news to give. But the best news that we have to give is that my latest scan, which I had on January 2nd, came back clean. Again, everything is stable. There's no sign of progression. And so that was doubly significant, given that it's close to the 1 year mark, and also from the beginning we were told that the tumor would likely come back in about a year to 18 months. So while we're certainly not outside of that window or beyond that window, we are now within that window. And thank God, and thank all of you for your prayers. There's no sign, as of right now, that the tumor is back.
Okay, I just want to say something. So, on his scan, there's the part where, there was the resection, okay? And then there was like a little part up here-ish in his brain that was like a flare-up from the radiation. They were keeping an eye on it. They were calling it the pseudo-tumor before.
Pseudo-progression.
Pseudo-progression before. They were unsure of what that area was, and when we went, they said that it was actually shrinking. So it was like collapsing in on itself. That's what the woman had said, and I thought that was really amazing. So that the fact that he's not taking any of the the chemo for the shrinkage of that area. I asked her what that area was, and she said they don't really know, just an area that was affected by the radiation. However, it's shrinking. So I thought that was wonderful news, and to say that it wasn't due to the Temodar, because if he were taking Temodar, I think one would think that that was actually helping it to shrink whenever it's not. So I didn't want to leave that little part out, that little piece, whatever that area is.
It
I wish I
shows
had a
up.
picture.
It shows up white on the scan.
It shows up white on the scan, and it's like, so the area where the resection was, it's black. It's like, because it's missing, and then there's that spot like right above it to where like you would see it was like bigger in some pictures, and then it's like it's definitely getting smaller. It's definitely shrinking, which I think is wonderful news. And so that's something I just want to make sure that I didn't leave that out.
Yeah.
Oh, that was interesting.
So, we met with the physician's assistant this last time around. My regular doctor was actually on maternity leave, so we won't likely see her until the next scan, which will be 2 months from now. But they've always just kind of described that area as swelling, or inflammation.
Inflammation, like it would always show up, like, and even whenever asked, like, what is that? What is it? She didn't really have a real answer.
Right. But so everything is looking better, and I feel it too. I feel a lot better over the last couple months. Um, I've started to regain my strength a little bit. Certainly not as quickly as I would hope to, but I'm able to move around. I don't feel as achy. I don't feel the muscle tightness as I did. Getting up and walking isn't as difficult as it had been. So that's all good. For the most part, I have a little bit more energy, though it's ironic. Today I came home from work and I was rather tired and I actually fell asleep for a little bit. So, but overall, my my strength, my energy has returned. So that's been good. I mentioned earlier, about Carrie driving, and I was in the passenger seat. One of the things that has happened over the last couple months, and I believe that this has been since our last video update, is I had a couple focal seizures. The first one happened maybe a week before Thanksgiving. It was on a Friday night when I was driving our oldest son to his fencing activity, and I was in the car with both him and our third child, our second oldest son. And as I was driving, I started to see a red flashing light, and the red flashing light was initially there. It was a real light, but as I would continue driving, that red flashing light remained in my vision, and I would turn and look right, I would turn and look left, I kind of blinked my eyes a few times, and that light remained, and it was there for, I would say, a solid minute. Um, so that did alarm me, but I thought, now, maybe that's nothing, and it actually went away. But as I continued to drive down the road, I started to see flashing lights, and it was almost, it felt like I was in a time warp. I don't know how else to describe it, but like these lights were just kind of going by me, and I was seeing images that I recognized, but I wasn't fully able to. I wasn't able to fully recognize, and I kind of was. I never lost consciousness, but I lost kind of my awareness, and but I did have enough awareness to realize that something was wrong and I needed to get off the road. So I asked my oldest son. I said, "Hey, listen, I'm seeing these lights. I need to stop driving. Can you help me, direct me to where I can turn to get off the road?" And thankfully, there was a gravel pull off on the side of the road, and he said, "Here, Dad, turn here." I was able to turn, park the car, call Carrie, and she came and got me. Actually took me over to the hospital, and they, after asking me some questions, I think they ran a scan, right, like a CT scan, and didn't see anything, like as far as a tumor or any other significant. Um, there was nothing significant that they found in the scan, so they deemed that to be a focal seizure, meaning that it was a seizure, but it was contained in one area of my brain, and I imagine that would probably have something to do with my visual cortex. Um, so that happened. As a result, they increased my dosage of anti-seizure medication. So I was on 200 milligrams a day. They bumped me up to 300 milligrams a day. A week passed, and I didn't have any other incidents, but I did notice a kind of a high sensitivity to lights, particularly at night. So I felt uncomfortable driving at night. and then uh, the weekend after Thanksgiving, Saturday, we had some family over, and I had that same sensation, not quite as severe, because this time it was just like a white blinking light, and it lasted for about maybe 30 seconds, 45 seconds, something like that, and it went away. The reason I say it wasn't as severe, I didn't have that second flashing light, anything else other than that initial white blinking light that was in my vision. And I stayed much more aware this time, and Carrie was sitting next to me on the couch, and other family members were here, and I was just telling them, hey, just letting you know this is happening. Uh, and they just kind of sat there, waited for me, and it stopped. Um, I haven't had anything like that since, but because of those two incidents, and we spoke to my doctor's office following each of those incidents, and they both thought it was a good idea for me to try to drive as little as possible. They did not, for whatever reason, and I'm not certain, they did not have to report these, maybe because they weren't full seizures, for the purposes to the state where I would lose my license, but they did advise that I try to drive as little as possible and try to avoid driving at night. So that's why I have not been driving at night. And thankfully, with my work commute, my drive is less than a few miles. So that's been a significant development over the last couple of months. But the good news is, so that last incident was November 30th. Yeah, because it was 2 days after Thanksgiving, and I haven't had one since then. So perhaps it's due to the increased medication.
Also avoiding driving.
Yeah, avoiding driving at night. Not sure. The second incident, I wasn't, as I described, I wasn't driving. So exactly what set that off, I'm not sure. But the strobe lights, anything that's flashing, blinking, particularly at nighttime, I do kind of try to avoid looking at it. I don't know if I'm truly susceptible to having another seizure, or if this is something different. So one other thing I wanted to mention about this, because somebody mentioned this to me, and the doctors did call this a focal seizure. It sounded like something that some friends of ours described as an ocular migraine. So I don't know if that was the case, if the two were related, not certain. But so that actually made me wonder a little bit more with this latest scan. Like, is something happening? Even though I wasn't feeling any pain.
You mean like before we had the
Before we had the
you're
scan.
wondering if something was going on. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Maybe since it is shrinking, like that since there are changes in there, that like those changes are disrupting, not necessarily that they're bad changes, like that since it's shrinking, it is kind of shifting things around.
Could be.
You know what I'm saying? Like, as
right.
opposed to in a bad scenario where it's like shifting and making it bigger, or things into where you're having that. But maybe since it's, who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm thankful, obviously, that the slate scan was clean,
Yeah.
and that the seizures, if indeed was a seizure, did not generalize to where I had a full blown seizure.
Yeah. I also want to mention about your medication.
Mm-hmm.
At first, how so Brandon's only taking Vimpat. That's it, it's anti-seizure. And then when we switched insurances, they were not going to cover it. They said they weren't going to cover it, and we needed what was it, something from our doctors.
Prior authorization.
Yeah, saying why he has to have this special medication because they don't think he needs it or whatever. And so the medication that he was on before was Keppra, and he had a adverse reaction to it. It made him agitated. I don't want to say aggressive, but just not normal. He wasn't himself.
That
And
was very early on,
yeah, that was like right at the very beginning.
first month or so.
And so we had to have our doctor prove that he shouldn't be on those and that this is the actual good medication for him. And it was a little bit of a worry because this Vimpat is doing a good job for him. He's been on it for almost a year now. And we were worried that he would get kicked off of it and then get on something else. And then what are those reactions going to do to him? And when we talked to the nurse practitioner about calling the insurance and getting this worked out, she said, I'm just going to let you know it usually doesn't work out. Usually they won't accept it. They still won't accept it because there's no generic version of this anti-seizure medication right now, and it's you're not going to get it. Just want to let you know that. Most likely not. She goes, I'll give it a try. She came back, like 10 minutes later, and it was approved. And so that was a massive blessing. She was shocked that they even decided to let him stay on it and that the insurance was going to cover it, which really was a true blessing. I just don't want to leave these little details out because I think these are things that on the journey that are the highs and low points. Like this is just a little high, I think, that we were able to still keep that, and it was another point of God's grace that we didn't have to experiment with another anti-seizure medication at what even at what dosage do we start at, and what's it going to do to you, even as far as like emotionally, not just like keeping the seizures at bay, but emotionally what's it going to do, because we know the other one wasn't great for you. So that was another massive blessing that came out of this other doctor's visit.
Right. No, I agree with that. I'm glad you said that too. Because, just not knowing how I might react, as you said, the first one caused me a lot of agitation. But also, too, given that I've had these focal seizures, weren't sure, how would my brain react to something new. So
Like switching over.
right. Given that they were able to get that approved was a blessing.
And the fact that she thought that she was like, it usually doesn't go through, I'm just going to let you know.
Right.
That was like even amazing that she came back and she was shocked. We were all like, really?
Yeah.
So that was
Yeah,
good
it's
news.
definitely good news. So we're back to where we've been with the last couple updates. We have the next couple months. Right. So right now, there's not much to worry about. I'm not going through any treatment. It's just kind of we hop to the next stone every 2 months and hope to continue. One of the things that I believe I addressed before, but I had some people ask me, how long are you going to have to keep getting these scans? And I spoke with my doctor about that last time, and she said, more than likely that you'll have to keep having these for the foreseeable future. And I know I mentioned this, but I'll reiterate that that having glioblastoma, one is not considered to be in remission unless there's no return of tumor for 10 years. So 1 year down.
I was going to
9
say,
to
1
go.
year down. Yeah.
So if you follow these video updates, hopefully you'll get to see another 9 years of them. I don't know.
Well, let's hope.
Yeah, maybe we'll still look as good. Not as we won't age 9 years worse.
Let's hope not.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So, anyway, so as we've done along the way, we want to share a Bible verse, and actually Carrie's going to share the Bible verse tonight, and this is a verse that is very meaningful to her.
It is. Okay, so it's Proverbs 24:10, and this version is the new.
It's ESV.
Okay, the ESV, and it says, Proverbs 24:10. If you were faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. And so whenever I was memorizing this, that's right, memorizing this whenever I was younger, it was how it said it was, if you're weak in the day of a crisis, you're weak indeed. And so I just look at this as my go-to verse that, if you have strength and you can boast about your strength and whatever it is spiritually or you just, physical strength, and then it comes time to actually be strong and you can't, then you were never really strong. And so this to me is one of those times where you have to be strong, and if you're not, then how big was your strength anyway? So this was just a verse that I cling to, so I'm going to share it.
All right, thank you. And we wanted to thank all of you again for your prayers because, as I mentioned, not taking any medication, not going through any particular treatments. We know, even if I was, the only thing that's holding this cancer back is God, and we affirm the power of prayer, and we know we have many people out there praying for us. We just met a woman this past Sunday at church who was visiting her family from Arizona, and she told us that her church group in Arizona prays for us when they have their weekly prayer meetings. And we've heard that story so often from so many people, and that's nothing but just the kindness, the thoughtfulness of everyone out there. I'm continually blown away by these stories, and we thank all of you out there who are keeping us in your prayers and our family. And so from our family to yours, Happy New Year. We wish you all many blessings in this coming year, and we thank God that we can celebrate this new year, and hopefully we'll have many years to come. Okay, well, have a good night, everyone. God bless. Bye.